This episode of Unqualified is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. On the drive to and from my parents' house in Washington State, we almost always stop at two particular McDonald's, one in Salem, Oregon, and another in Eureka, California. At the moment, we are in the parking lot of the Salem location, and I just finished a Big Mac and fries. Even though we are just passing through, I appreciate the familiarity and feeling of community. The other day, I was looking through my mother-in-law's photo album and came across a photo where she and her friends are standing in front of a McDonald's wearing their cheerleading uniforms. I usually call my mother-in-law New Mom, but her name is Marcia. Under the photo, Marcia had written a note, and I talked her into letting me read it here. San Bernardino, California. I have so many memories of this McDonald's over the years. My father took me there on what I think was opening day. What a thrill it was as a young girl to order a chocolate shake, hamburger, and French fries. Then there was the time when my cousin Hinda and I were given a tour and allowed to take dill pickles by the cupful out of a huge barrel. We must have eaten 100 pickles each. Everyone in my family knows the story of how I accidentally missed the ketchup container and dipped a fry into my milkshake. Now when I dip fries in my shake, it's on purpose. I remember when I was 12 years old, my mother and my cousin Noel Novak, Larry's brother, picked me up from dance class, and we went for dinner to celebrate Noel's graduation from high school. Years later, when I was in high school, we would go to McDonald's every Friday night after the football game. I wish you could see this photo. Marcia couldn't remember if they won the game that night, but everyone is smiling as if they did. Wherever your local McDonald's is, there's nothing better than that wonderful feeling of community.
Dear listeners, I'm the only one with headphones right now. Sim doesn't have headphones, and I have the advantage.
You do.
All right. So
okay, we have to quickly introduce the show we have right now. So we kind of cobbled this together. We're in San Francisco doing Clusterfest, so it was tough to kind of put together a show last minute, but we do have something special. We have Ari Graynor,
who is one of my dearest friends. I love her so much. We actually recorded this episode a while back, but and now we're able to release it. She has the most a brilliant show on Showtime called I'm Dying Up Here. And
she's amazing in it. She steals it.
She's such a brilliant actress.
I know. I'm so glad she's getting this kind of recognition.
We were in What's Your Number together, and we've been dear friends ever since. And we also have Carrie Goldberg.
This is such a fascinating conversation. I really, really enjoyed this. So Carrie Goldberg is an attorney.
She's an attorney, and I read a profile piece in the New Yorker, and Amy and Sim, you guys helped track her down for me, and she was willing to come speak on our podcast.
And we talk a lot about who she is on the episode. She specializes in online privacy and revenge porn. Really, really fascinating stuff.
Yes.
And just doing some amazing things.
She's on the forefront, right, of
she's one
litigation
of the very few
against
that do it,
revenge porn, which is amazing.
And finally, we have updates, caller updates.
We have caller updates.
Yeah. So I know you guys have been asking for them. So we have 2 coming up right now on this episode, and then we're working on a few more. So this is a long episode. You can listen to this episode over a week. Really, it's like 2.5 hours. So
do you know why you should have headphones?
Why?
Because that was so loud.
You're right. Sorry, dear listeners.
No, it's not. You know what? It's not an episode of Unqualified if I don't give you shit.
I know. By the way, you don't even know this, but on this episode, you give me a lot of shit.
Oh, good.
I think you do.
Dear listeners, thanks for I keep wanting to say tune in, but isn't that like
they can tune in.
Isn't that like an old-fashioned term? Tune in, dear listeners.
I like it. No, bring it back. It's fine. It's okay.
Anyway,
we're off to
thank
Clusterfest.
You. Okay, we're off to Clusterfest.
So you're going to hear the Clusterfest show in a couple of weeks with Hannibal, and we can't wait. Thank you so much.
I think we should do this again.
Okay, fine. But you know what I like about you, though?
What? What do you like about me?
I love that you, whenever if I ask you if you're busy or if you want to do something or whatever it is, and instead of giving me an excuse, sometimes you text me and you'll say, you know what, I really don't feel like it. I'm tired. I just want to watch Netflix. And that is perfect because that's exactly what I would do too. I would just say, you know what, I'm not really feeling it right now. I would much rather stay at home and binge watch TV.
You know what? I think in the last couple years, maybe year and a half, I've been really trying hard to just be frank, to just be a little more frank.
It's
with
refreshing.
people.
I feel everyone should be that way because
I've
it's
definitely
true.
lost a couple friends.
By being frank?
Well, or by just being like, I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you for a month. Things have been crazy and I just haven't had the time. I wanted to call you or whatever. And then there's like the ongoing like, oh, I thought you were mad at me. And then which requires a whole different level of energy. I don't know. I'm trying to keep the people in my life that are okay, like you, with just the simple answer of like, I just need to have some time for a minute.
No, I love that because usually I feel like, oh, you know what, that sounds great, perfect.
Yeah,
I don't have to see you. I'll see you another time.
And you're a friend that can accept that.
Yes.
That's okay with that.
I love that.
Whereas some people in my life aren't as comfortable with that.
Right.
And so, and as I get older, I just don't have the patience to comfort them with like white lies and stuff.
Why are people so sensitive?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, it's really tough between like the podcast and having a kid, and
it's a lot.
It's a
lot.
It's
your
a lot.
show, your full-time job.
I've lost a lot of friends. I have but our listeners know that. I don't have any friends.
Well, you know what? All of our listeners are your friends.
Thanks everybody out there. I hope so.
So what are we doing today?
So today we're going to do a few caller updates that people have been inquiring about too, which I'm really excited about because it's always fun to revisit and check in with some of the people that we've talked to in the past. We're also talking to a revenge porn attorney. I hope that she's okay with me describing her like that.
I wonder how you would describe her.
Okay. Well, I read this article, and so did Amy, your girlfriend, and we in the New Yorker a few weeks ago. It's by
her name is Margaret
Talbot, and she did a piece on this woman named Carrie Goldberg, who is this young woman who's at the forefront of revenge porn litigation, and I think it really struck us because it seems so applicable and so relevant to sort of the new age, all this new age of social media. At least it's new for me. But I thought that a lot of our listeners would be interested in this topic.
Yeah, she has a practice that's specializing in sexual privacy, and it's a new field of law that's emerging. And I wasn't familiar with this at all. In fact, Amy and you read this exclusively of each other, and then you both talked to me about it.
Yeah, which is so funny. But I think it really struck us both as like, oh yeah, this is a highly, highly relevant issue right now, how somebody can destroy your life potentially, and somebody that you felt really close to, your ex in most cases, exploiting you over the internet, and with devastating consequences. Sometimes people lose their jobs or have a tough time finding a job. Sometimes, in some cases that Carrie talked about in the article, random men show up at these women's doorstep, like, hoping for some kind of free sex, and it gets creepy and crazy. And there's a lot of states that, because this is new, and also maybe because it happens a lot more to women than to men, although it does happen to men, a lot of states have been slow. This is my sort of feminist viewpoint on it, but have been slow to enact, to creating laws against this. And in terms of privacy rights and versus First Amendment rights. But anyway, Carrie Goldberg is somebody we're going to be talking to today, and hopefully she can give our listeners some advice and some anecdotes, and sort of what to do if this happens to you, and how to prevent yourself from how to prevent victim blame, and how to prevent maybe this horrible idea of happening to you. And it's the kind of thing where I think a lot of these people, you you're in love, you take sexy photos, you send them to your boyfriend or girlfriend, and then when the relationship ends, and if it ends bitterly, sometimes this horrible stuff happens where people take revenge and put you all over the internet. And anyway,
and Carrie's one of the few people who actually doing the specializing in this type of privacy law, sexual privacy law. And if anyone wants to read that New Yorker article, it is on Twitter. Emma has posted it on Twitter. I'm lying. Emma hasn't done that yet because this is pre-recorded, but while we're releasing it, it's okay. It's up right there. It's up on the internet right now. There's a link.
Have you always been truthful?
I know. I couldn't lie. I couldn't lie.
How much do you lie? You don't lie very much, do you?
I don't. I can't. I don't know. I guess I'm really truthful.
I'm not a great liar either.
And you could tell when I'm kind of bullshitting or I'm trying to lie. You can completely tell where if it's like if I'm not comfortable saying something.
Are you a good poker player? Have we talked about this before?
I don't really play that much poker, but no, I'm not. I'm really bad at bluffing. I will say that.
Because do you know what I think your tells would be?
What's that?
If I were playing poker with you, I think your tells, I think you would start to rock a little bit. And whether it was, I don't know if I'd be able to tell if it was good or bad. Although if you kept staying in, I would think it was good because I don't think you are a risk taker. I don't know if you would risk a ton on a really bad hand, hoping to outbluff somebody.
Right.
That would be my take on you.
Yeah, I've done that in the past and I've gone out really early. So yes, I guess I would be more conservative when it comes to my bets. But that's the thing. The other tell would be, I don't know if that would be considered a tell, but if I placed a large bet, then you would know I have a good hand, right? So
right.
So I wouldn't be a good poker player then.
No, I don't think you would.
All right.
But if there's any conscious, I'm horrible. Too.
Really? I bet
so
Chris
bad.
is good.
Chris is good.
I bet he is.
I'm really bad. Well, apparently to be a really good poker player, you have to take huge risks. And you have to be willing to bet a whole lot and be willing to lose a whole lot.
Exactly. Right.
And that's the only way you're going to win big. And you have to be able to swallow the big losses. And I can't do that very well.
That's going to be tough. But hey, look,
okay.
We're taking big bets in our own lives.
We are?
I think we are, aren't we?
Okay, I don't know.
I have no idea. All right, should we call her?
We're still working out of my living room or dining room. I always say living room. I guess because it really doesn't feel like a dining room.
It's a large dining room.
This episode of Unqualified is brought to you in part by Warby Parker. Warby Parker was founded with a rebellious spirit and the lofty goal of creating boutique-quality eyewear at a revolutionary price point. Sunglasses, with or without a prescription, start at $95 and, just like eyeglasses, are available through their home try-on program. You just choose 5 pairs and see which ones you like. I was surprised by how quickly they arrived, which presented me with the immediate problem of deciding which ones to keep. I loved all of them, so you can guess what happened. And not only can you feel good about how cool you look, you can also feel good knowing that for every pair of glasses sold, Warby Parker distributes a pair of glasses to someone in need through partnerships with nonprofits like Vision Spring. Offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams, Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores. So put your FSA or HSA dollars to good use on Warby Parker prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. Try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy. Ships free and includes a prepaid return shipping label. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/unqualified. That's warbyparker.com/unqualified. This episode of Unqualified is brought to you in part by Osea. Wondering what to gift your friends and family this holiday season? Female founded over 25 years ago by a mother and daughter team, Osea's award-winning cleansers, serums, face moisturizers, and body products give you the results you want. Skin that looks and feels amazing. I recently got to try Osea's new body butter, which, like their now famous Undaria algae body oil, transforms dry skin without being greasy, has the same incredible scent, and leaves your skin soft, smooth, and healthy looking. If my experience is any indication, you can count on your partner giving you a lot of compliments. This holiday season, stock up and share your new favorite clean skincare and body care with your friends and family. Unqualified listeners get 10% off your first order with promo code ANNA at OseaMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order, and orders over $50 get free shipping. Gifting is always easier if you start early, so head to OSEAMalibu.com. Use code ANNA.
Okay, so we're doing callers first?
Yeah, no, we're going to call Carrie first.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if she's going to pick up the phone. So.
C.A. Goldberg.
Hi, this is Anna Faris calling for Carrie.
Hi, this is Carrie. How are
Hi,
you?
Carrie. How are you?
Good.
Listen, we're recording you right now. You're on with Sim Sarna and myself. Hey, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. Are you in New York right now?
Yes.
Have you thought about coming back to the West Coast? Because, you know, as we talked about before, you and I are from the same, to other people it would sound like the same hood, but we're both from Washington State. And have you considered like moving back west again?
Well, I do totally just crave my bedroom in my little lumberjack town of Aberdeen. I just want to put my whole body under the covers and not get out of bed again for like 4 years.
That sounds so Kurt Cobain-y and grungy, which is, I'm sure the hardcore fans will know out there that Kurt Cobain was born and raised in Aberdeen. I assume he was born, but he was raised in Aberdeen. Is that right, Carrie?
Yes, he was born and raised, and I spent a lot of time under the Wishkop Bridge, which is where he used to live, apparently.
Oh, my God.
Wait, what would you do under the bridge?
Yeah.
We would hold vigils for Kurt Cobain. I was a sophomore, junior when he died, and it was like the most tragic thing I'd ever experienced in my life.
I was a senior, and granted, we were further up north. You know, we were in Edmonds, but we did make everyone was crying at school. Suddenly, there was everyone was wearing, R.I.P. Kurt Cobain shirts. We made a pilgrimage to that weird sherbety colored house that he shared with Courtney down on where was it? It was kind of by Lake Washington. Do you remember that place? I don't know. Anyway, we went down there. It was all gated off. There wasn't anything to see. But I know. Sorry, Gary.
This guy's so depressing.
Bringing back the memories.
It was hell.
So Carrie, we wanted you on because of your, I read your piece in the New Yorker, and I talked to you a few weeks ago about coming on and talking to our listeners about what you do and some potential advice. And I wanted to maybe have you start out. I have some questions for you, but I would love to maybe just get a little bit of intro from you about how you kind of got started in this field. I know that you were an attorney for public housing for a while in Brooklyn. Is that correct?
I was. So my first job as a baby lawyer was representing low-income tenants in Manhattan, and then I went back to my roots. Originally, before law school and during law school, I worked with Nazi victims and elderly Holocaust survivors. Went to law school at night just to kind of take my mind off the Holocaust, and then was like, oh, shit, I have to become a lawyer now. And wait, can we cuss on your show? I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
of course.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. It'll be a problem otherwise. So then I was working at a place called the Vera Institute, where I was I ran the legal department, and we were the guardian of like 150 incapacitated people. And I spent a lot of time making end-of-life decisions for them, and I ended up like putting people out of their misery about 12 times a year. So I was like,
my God.
I sort of was like this angel of death. And then my life took a really severe pivot when, I guess in April of 2013, when I ended a relationship. It was a pretty short relationship. It lasted like 4 months. And the person that I had been involved with became extremely volatile as a result of it, and was retaliatory in any number of ways. And there were a number of court cases and legal actions taken. And when I got to the other side of that, like 6 months later, nothing about my life was ever the same. I had experienced like intense fear for the first time.
Sorry, Carrie, and I don't know how much you can talk about this, but was it sort of stalking behavior? I mean, you really truly don't let me pry too much at all. You can tell me to shut the fuck up, but it obviously got to a very serious place.
Yeah, it was online and offline stalking, and threats and contact made to like 16 different family members and colleagues and judges, and basically this person expressed to all of the world that he was going to be spending the rest of his life destroying mine, and so
did you see? This is off topic, but did you see glimpses of that kind of stuff when you were in the relationship, but ignored it? Because with my exes, it never got to a place like that, but I definitely ignored a lot of red flags. Do you feel like kind of this? I mean, or was sort of after the breakup, did all this stuff kind of come as a huge shock to you?
It's that's a question that so many of my clients get asked, and I also get asked that a lot too. And it just is sort of a curdling question, because it's about, of course. I mean, like it is like, of course, we're all, like we're not naive. We can like see. Sure, we can see glimpses, but there's still a denial, and sometimes it's easier to stay in something bad than to confront what is going to be a tsunami that's that much worse. Oh, completely.
We always on this podcast we talk a lot about like trying to make a bad thing work, and and you're right. And sometimes like the safer path almost seems like to stay in it. I've definitely been a part of that. Sorry, I'm talking about me, but
no, I mean, it's something, you talking about yourself, and it's something that so many of us experience, and there's so much shame involved, particularly if you're somebody who is a strong person and is used to being an advocate and helping other people. There's, like we don't want to talk about our own sort of experience being injured and quote unquote, a victim.
Right. And so many of us, like, I don't know, I've found in my experience that the most manipulative people don't really know that they're manipulative. And I don't know, I found myself pretty easily, just wanting to believe that I don't know, that the things, I was wearing a lot of rose-colored glasses, and this is something I want to talk to you about later, is how to prevent victim guilt and what you probably do. Anyway, let's get onto that in a minute. Will you please go on? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, after 6 months, nothing about my life looked the same. I'd had to move to another apartment where there was security, and my dog was being cared for by somebody else. My relationships with my family were pretty messed up, and my friends as well, because he'd harassed all of them as well. And there was also just like some resentment. Like, why did you bring this variable into our lives?
Oh, that
because
sucks.
he was threatening not just me, but also them as well. And so I was just sort of at the end of my rope, feeling darker than I'd ever felt in my entire life. And I had this like literal like edge of the cliff moment in Ireland, like over New Year's, December of 2013. And I was like, oh my God, like I just like experienced all this stuff, and I'm going to like now have my psychotic meltdown, and it's going to be right here on this cliff. And oh my God, what happens? Like I felt this like surge of energy, and I knew I needed to run. And I was like, holy shit, which direction am I even going to run? And unfortunately I ran away from the cliff, but I was making this negotiation with myself that, okay, if the next year is as bad as these last 2 years were, then Carrie, you can come back to this cliff and reassess things. And so I then came back to New York, quit my job I gave notice January 7th of 2014. My last day was the 23rd, and then I started my law firm the 24th. And basically, I just had this goal that I was going to spend the next year trying to be for other people the lawyer that I really needed when I was going through my stuff. And so I'd learned so much, and I had been so unable to find anybody to help me who kind of knew about the intersection of domestic violence and internet law and privacy law and First Amendment law and criminal law. And so it's like, I know there are other people in my situation who could use an advocate, and I've got this amazing resource. I've got this law degree. I can actually, actually help people. And so I just had this new life mission, and it's just one of those situations where out of shit can become can grow such a beautiful thing, and I'm so grateful for all the bullshit that happened to me.
Well, did you find yourself sort of? I would imagine once the word got out that you found yourself sort of flooded with clients or people that needed your help, because you're on like the forefront of doing this. And was that the case that you, and I'm sure I'm sure you must now be, are you just swamped with, because it seems like it's such a common and tragically so problem now that people's lives are getting destroyed.
Well, at first, when I first started the law firm, I didn't know that it was actually going to become like a career. I thought I was just going to continue doing guardianship, and that I would try to also help other people who were having sexual privacy invasions. And but I was on such a shoestring budget. My office had no windows, and it was like 75 square feet maybe, and so I didn't have like a mechanism for marketing myself or anything. But I just started kind of blogging and tweeting as much as I could about the topic, and taking any case that I could, and doing all this work for free just to build the experience that I needed, and then the cases started rolling in.
Without getting too personal with some of your clients, but can you tell us about, without naming any names or whatever you're comfortable with, can you tell us a couple of examples of some of the stuff of some of the kinds of cases that you work on?
Yeah. So basically the general idea is that I represent victims of online harassment, sexual assault, and blackmail. And a lot of the cases involve revenge porn and sextortion. And a case that I just filed, and I have this client's permission to talk about it, is he's a 32-year-old actor who got out of a bad relationship, and then, like so many of my other clients, that jilted ex retaliated, and he started creating fake profiles impersonating my client on Grindr. And for the last 4 months, my client has received between 1 and 15 visits to his home and his workplace from men expecting to have sex with him. He altogether, there's, a conservative estimate of the number of people that have gone to his home and workplace is like 700. And so this ex, it's just like made it his full-time job to just exact revenge on my client. And he's used a lot of different methods to do it, but the Graynor one's the most interesting because my client has lodged over 50 complaints with Graynor, and they've done nothing. So we just on Friday I got an injunction against Graynor, and we filed this big lawsuit against Graynor. So that's a case that I'm really excited about. A lot of my clients are young. I've got a number of cases representing high school girls. I've got a 13-year-old here in Brooklyn who was sexually assaulted, and the offender, who was a classmate of hers, he filmed it, and then the rape tape went viral around the school. And she, the victim, was then told to leave school because her presence at school was considered a distraction. And I have two other cases that are similar where victims of sexual assault were told to leave school. And all three of those cases involve girls of color here in Brooklyn who are super low income with immigrant moms, single moms, and, so those cases are they're not against the offender, but they're against the school because the school was
right.
So negligent. I mean, when one of the cases, it was my client has an IQ of 71. She was dragged into a stairwell by 7 people and then forced to provide oral sex on 2 of them. And then she was suspended. She told a guidance counselor what had happened. There was video footage of her being dragged into a stairwell, and my client was suspended. So in those,
shocking.
like, in all my cases, it's like, usually when you have a case and somebody's been injured, you sue or you get relief against the person who did the injury. But in my cases, usually the person who caused the injury is not somebody who can ever make my client whole again. They can never repay her for what she experienced. And so we have to get creative. And in these cases, the school was a real accomplice in her pain and suffering. So, hey, we're going after the school, and we're making them start to create better mechanisms for people who are reporting sexual assault, and we're also demanding that they start teaching consent. We have a number of different demands on the New York City Department of Ed.
So is it almost twofold, whether it's like going after a school district or Grindr or, other porn sites, or not the Grindr's a porn site, but you know what I'm saying, or porn sites,
Mm-hmm.
And also the individual who's, is there civil litigation against, and what about the idea of child pornography? Are some of these people, if they're underage and passing around naked photos of, say, their girlfriend or boyfriend at school, are they committing pedophilia, acts of pedophilia, or how does that, or is it a state by state case? How does that work?
I mean, one of the problems that I face is a civil litigator is that I can never compel prosecutors or law enforcers to pursue criminal actions. And so I'm really limited by what I can do as a civil attorney. I can sue, and I can threaten to sue and send cease and desist letters and stuff like that. But it's one situation that we have a lot is when underage people are having sex or distributing intimate images of themselves, whether or not it's consensual, whether or not there's a revenge porn component, it does trigger our child pornography statutes. A lot of states, though, have these things called sexting laws that make it so that if somebody's arrested for child pornography, for sexting naked pictures to their their boyfriend or something, then instead of being prosecuted under child pornography laws, there's kind of a leniency, and they just have to go to like a day camp to learn about cyberbullying and stuff. But one of the problems we see, especially with underage victims of revenge porn, is that they're treated as criminals themselves. And so there's a threat that if they go and pursue criminal charges, that they, the victim, can be charged with the creation of child pornography, the distribution of child pornography, the distribution of it to a minor. And so even though
right. Oh my God.
A child is a victim of revenge porn, they're not necessarily going to be treated as a victim. So that's something really scary that we have to confront.
It's so yeah, I think I want you to speak a little bit more about how we prevent people, because I took naked photos with exes, but they weren't on phones. You know, you had to like go and get them developed at like a drugstore or whatever. And sure, I'm sure that they were seen by some high school kids, which sucks. It was a little, it wasn't necessarily, but I think that I felt guilty about that idea as opposed to like, because I did. And I think I really suspect that, that I was also secretly videotaped, having, I don't have any proof, having sex, with an ex, and maybe it was shown around, but I felt more guilty about that idea than, which, you know, speaks, I'm sure that a lot of your clients have a lot of that victim guilt, like, well, I did this, so I'm culpable, or I'm a participant in this. And I would love for you to clarify the idea that even if you consent to taking a photo or being a part of a photo, that does not mean that you consent to distribution of the material.
I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, you said exactly what it is. I mean, consenting to show a naked picture or share a naked picture with one person is not consenting for it to be shared with the entire internet or the entire school. Any more so than if I am buying a pair of shoes at Barney's and I give my credit card to the salesperson, I'm consenting for him to charge me for that one pair of shoes and not for 700 pairs of shoes. And
I do hear you like shoes. I like shoes too.
Yeah.
Right. Though, but yeah, please, I didn't mean to interrupt you, because I do think that a lot of people, especially women, we're not to gender. I know that men deal with these issues too, but I do think that we have a different sense of guilt around sexuality. That's in a lot of us is. We still get told, like, what? Who was that old man senator who told us that the best birth control, like a year ago, was an aspirin between our knees or whatever?
Oh, right.
Like, there's very much still, like, well, was the skirt short mentality? And so I hope that you can give our listeners who've experienced this or who maybe are worried about pictures they've taken and feel guilty about that, I hope you can help give them a sense of relieving that victim guilt, that the idea that they didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's essential that they know that they've done nothing wrong, and it's one of the first sort of series of lectures, gentle, loving lectures that I give to my clients who come here with such shame and remorse stuff. That it's really normal for people to take intimate pictures of themselves. I mean,
right.
It goes back to when GIs would go off to war with like pictures of pinups and risque photos of their beloved in their wallets. I mean, this is not new behavior. It's just that all of us have these little photography studios in the palm of our hands and take pictures, all the time. And so it's just an extension and kind of obvious that it would extend to our sexual behavior. It's our phones are just part of mating, dating behavior now.
I've sent sexy pictures to Chris. We spend a lot of time apart, so I have to. I mean, I don't have to, but I like to. But then I get, of course, worried that someone, I mean, of course, I'm worried about
hacks.
Yeah, about hacking, and but point being, like, it feels like this is a part of the norm, having a normal, healthy, fun, sexy kind of communication, and then when it becomes exploitative, it definitely feels like a violation out of something that is, like you just said, is normal behavior for and shouldn't necessarily. We shouldn't have to go into a relationship feeling like I can't send so and so a sexy picture because if we break up, he's going to post. I mean, nobody should. If you enter a relationship like that, you probably shouldn't be in it from the get-go. I mean, if you with that degree of, like, wariness, I suppose. Anyway, so let's say maybe you could help give our listeners some practical advice if they're in this. Let's say someone posts an explicit picture of me without my permission. What should I do?
So they posted it on the internet?
Yes.
Thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. First thing that you do is take a screenshot and go, and one of the first pieces of advice that I tell my clients is do not erase it. So there's often a knee-jerk reaction to go for the client to go into their phone, find that picture, and erase it. We need that picture so that we can, like, show that they, that this was their own picture and that they sent it, and show, like, a whole chain of custody. So, and then depending on the platform where it's posted, I mean, we can get it down usually. If it's a selfie, then the victim owns the copyright in that. If it was taken by somebody else, then the other person owns it. Whoever clicks the button owns the copyright.
Yeah, what happens in that situation if someone else owns the copyright? And is it tougher to get down?
Well, it depends. So, like in 2015. A group that I'm involved with made tons of progress in terms of getting bans on revenge porn on major social media platforms like Google, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And so now those platforms will take it down regardless of who owns the picture. But when you're talking about other places, like seedier places on the internet, like dedicated revenge porn websites or Tumblr sometimes, those places won't necessarily take it down unless you threaten them with a copyright infringement case. And so if somebody else owns the copyright, what I do is I then find that person, say, I know you did this, and we're going to pursue charges against you. Why don't you take this moment to transfer the copyright over to my client? And they do. I mean, when people receive a cease and desist letter from me, they
I bet you write a scary cease and desist letter. I would not want to get one of those.
It's my favorite thing to do. And I started this new format recently. A lot of my clients actually, surprisingly, are super wealthy men who are maybe had some sort of extramarital little dalliance with somebody that they met online, like on a Seeking Arrangements or Ashley Madison type situation, and that woman comes. I'm not to be sexist, but usually in these scenarios, it's man victim, woman offender, and she'll usually come up and say, I'm going to send everyone in your, on the board of your business or the board of your company or your kids, all these screenshots of the sexy texts that we exchanged, if you don't give me $50,000 or $10,000. And sometimes the victim doesn't even know the real name of the woman. If it was a prostitute or somebody they met online one time, they don't even necessarily have the basic information. And so then I have to get my team of cyber ninjas involved, and we de-anonymize the victim. And so in those situations, my favorite way to start a cease and desist letter is say, hi, I'm Carrie Goldberg. I represent blah, blah, blah. and I'm taking negotiations over from here. Negotiations just ended.
Nice.
It's so funny. I just read that paragraph in your New Yorker article about the.
Oh shit! Am I repeating myself?
No. Can you tell? It was so cool about how you actually went and found the guy. How you tracked how you tracked the woman down. Can you talk about that experience since it was in the article?
If it's the case I'm thinking of, then in that case, what we did is so she was using like software to make it so that we couldn't see her IP address or anything like that. So she was basically saying, I'm going to release all this stuff on Monday if you don't meet with me and give me this money. And so what we did was we were like, okay, she didn't know he had an attorney, but I said, okay, tell her that for security purposes, you want to create a new Gmail account and just communicate with her in the drafts of that.
Nice.
So we then created a new Gmail account that he had control over, and so they were communicating in the drafts rather than sending it to one another. And we tricked her into thinking this was like a privacy measure, but then we could actually acquire all the information related to her logins and logouts.
Nice. That is so crafty.
Cool.
And so then we could take that IP information, and we were able to track down like the very desktop computer on this specific floor in this specific office building in this particular city that she was communicating from.
Wow.
And I totally regret giving this whole story because that's like a trick I really love.
And then you sent your cease and desist letter after that.
Yeah, I mean and then like the problem has resolved itself. Hopefully she's not listening, but if she is, like, hey, I will come back if you do.
I don't think our listeners, I like to think, are not the kind of people that try to extort money.
Well, I mean, if she is listening, I mean, I can tell her that I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. So if she comes back,
hell yeah.
Yeah. Sick the cyber ninjas on you. So Ken, are there other ways for our listeners to protect themselves from invasions of privacy without restricting their freedom of expression? Or is this sort of the Wild West of times with our rapidly expanding, social media in the last 5 years? And I don't know. What do you think?
It's not the Wild West. I mean, we have tons of laws and restrictions when it comes to tech. We now have 33 different states that have revenge porn laws. We have all these hacking laws and laws about recording and distribution of that. So it's that we're not in the Wild West. But what people can do is just there's some just basic things, like if you're going to send sexy pictures, crop your head off, or not crop your head off, crop your head out of the image, and don't have like your high school or college diploma in the background, so that. And one of the biggest issues that we have on the internet is that if pictures are posted onto revenge porn websites, then there's this huge mob of internet bottom feeders that just pounce on the victims and try to track them down and compete with one another to find as much personal identifying information about the victim, and they post all that stuff in the comments and then harass. So that's the population that is the most frightening. So you don't want to have any information with your picture that would lead those people to you. But other things are just like, you talked about hacking. It's boring to talk about, but just, have complicated passphrases for all your devices, have two-step authentication, have different passwords for different social media accounts, and change those passwords. And where it says, your security question is like, what's your mother's maiden name? Don't put your mother's maiden name. Instead, put the prologue to the Canterbury Tales or some other thing that you can think of. But
Just gonna log in really quick.
The truth is, though, and this is like kind of this message that I feel is my duty to communicate all the time, is that we are all one moment away from meeting somebody who could destroy our life.
Right.
And that goes for anybody. If somebody wants to take us down, they will find a way. If they have skills relate to hacking and stuff, they will get in. Nobody can feel like smug that this hasn't happened to them. That they've never been the victim of revenge porn or stuff. I have clients whose bikinis were photoshopped off of Facebook pictures, and then they were posted on revenge porn websites. And people are filmed without their permission and then posted on websites. So nobody can feel like they can take every precaution possible for this to never happen to them.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, that makes complete sense. I mean, with like drones and I don't know, and sort of, I don't know, that's going to be the drone conversation, I think is, I know it's already happening, but it's just waiting to happen more. Chris is like, if I ever see a drone, because you can fly them because airspace is public, so you could conceivably fly them into people's yards, and Chris is like, I'm going to shoot them down. I'm like, honey, it's against the law. You can't. Anyway. But also,
I totally agree. Like, drones make me furious.
Yeah,
like the mosquito-ness of them.
I know,
but they're big.
Totally, and the creep. It goes up. You know what? Drone flyers should be my number one on the list of men.
Oh, they're going to add that to your list?
Men with hobbies you should not date.
So the hobbies, is magic a hobby now, or is magic...
No, that's a profession.
It's still a profession. You can't date any magicians.
It's going to be hobby and profession.
Okay, Carrie, do you know why Anna won't date a magician?
Well...
Tell me.
Oh, I just don't like somebody who gets off on being able to trick you. I'm amused, mildly amused by a magician in performance, but being with somebody who's like, it's a personality component that I'm not crazy about. Some people might be, I'm not. And same
I
thing.
think it would depend though. If a magician is like totally like frontal and like, okay, I'm in magician mode now, then that could be okay. But if a magician is,
I don't know if they can turn it on and off
stage. You don't think so? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. My mind feels a little made up on this. But I've never dated a magician.
But now anyone that owns a drone is on your list now?
Well,
you can own a drone and still not be creepy.
Yes. Yeah. Like you could own it for like, if you, let's say you need to manage your crops from a distance. But, or you want to like check out the wild geese formation that's flying south or whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, drone, because it's once again, like so many elements of the internet, it can be anonymous. Mm-hmm. And anything that's very anonymous just freaks me out. Unless it's a massive charitable donation, then I applaud it. But speaking of anonymous, like the troll issue, I don't know how much you can, like, I don't know if there are when trolling becomes harassment, and have we entered into that phase of litigation yet? I don't know if one particular troll becomes sends death threats. Is there anything you can do, or even just horrible, I don't know, like you should kill yourself kind of in like threat, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Like what I know that some people, there have been a handful of cases, right, where after there's been a tragic suicide, there's been some criminal like files charged against some of these people, but is that the same? I don't know. Carrie, do you know much about that world as well? I'm sure you do, but
yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite things to do is find out the identity of people that are cloaking themselves online. And it's actually one of the things I've been talking about here, and we kind of want to be getting into it as abortion rights are threatened, and the providers and advocates of abortion are being targeted and threatened more and more online, is that we want to start de-anonymizing the people that are doing that. Mm-hmm. And one way that we can do it is we can do lawsuits against a John Doe, and then we could subpoena the online service platform to get user information, metadata, and IP addresses for the offenders. And even though that's very tedious and cumbersome and time consuming, and litigation is expensive and stuff, if we have a few cases of that where people are outed as the trolls that they are, then hopefully that would have a deterrent effect. So that's kind of an area that I'm really excited about pursuing in the future.
Carrie, thank you so much for doing this. And if you wouldn't mind, maybe we can check back. I feel like we're going to get a lot of response, and I'd love to check back in with you in a few months and just be in touch. I'm just in awe of what you're doing, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be really relieved to hear that that their issues are getting a stronger and stronger voice through people like you and through you. And so, thank you so much.
Well, I am so glad to have gotten to talk to you and to all of your listeners. So I'm here. And yes, let's definitely keep the conversation alive.
I would love that.
To all your listeners, we do have your back. There are lawyers out there right here who can kick ass and protect you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And when you're in LA, please come to my creepy home.
Yes, it's a pretty creepy home. You actually would really love it here.
I don't know.
It's pretty cool.
No,
really?
Well,
okay.
Yes.
You're
It's
from
creepy and
Washington.
cool. Yeah, I think she would enjoy it.
Yeah.
I will not bring my drone.
Yes.
I don't.
No drones allowed. Carrie, you're doing some amazing and inspiring things. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Thank you. Okay. Keep up the good work, you two.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
What a fucking...
She's a rock star.
What a fucking amazing woman.
Wow.
What an
inspiring.
Yeah. She was like, I'm making a change in my life because I can take what I have, the law degree, and of my personal experience, and go out and do good for so many people. It's really, really incredible.
It really is incredible. And the beauty is, this is so new. Hopefully this encourages more people to get into this.
I hope
into
so.
this field, because there aren't that many. And she's one of the few that are doing it, and she's doing an incredible job.
And hopefully it opens up the dialogue, because I think a lot of people too, who do revenge porn, who post things. I mean, some people do it with a total act of vengeance in terms of my ex likes to be gang raped, so here's her address. Horrible things like that. But then there's other people who put it on, other maybe more innocuous stuff, or just simply spread it to their friends, who think that they're not doing something that's abnormal or all that harmful. And I love it that she's changing the conversation, that she's making the conversation.
Exactly. And the message is going to get across that you will be prosecuted.
Right.
And there are consequences.
There are consequences. And what you're doing is really fucked up.
Exactly.
And it's not the norm.
Right.
And anyway, I hope that, I hope we get to talk to her more. And listeners, please write us with, or, call us with your experiences if you have any, or if you want us to ask anything to Carrie, and I'd love to have her back on. And anyway, I'm so glad we were able to talk to her.
Me too.
Okay. We'll take a quick break, and then we're going to call our check-ins.
We're going to get some updates. Yes.
Okay. Updates. That's better than check-ins. Check-in sounds like what happens after you get a venereal disease. Okay. Bye. We'll be right back.
This episode of Unqualified is brought to you in part by State Farm. And in honor of their surprisingly great auto insurance rates, I'm going to tell you about a particularly surprising day on set. It takes me a long time to read a script. For almost every line of dialogue, I will stop to figure out why my character would say it, how it fits in the conversation, and how it's going to come out of my mouth. Between the lines, there are larger chunks of text which describe everything else happening in the scene. Maybe what a room looks like, what characters are wearing, and what they're doing. As I often underestimate how long everything in my life takes, I know I can make up some time by reading those larger chunks a little faster. I got the script for Overboard about 6 months before we started production. I read it in my warm living room, wearing comfortably warm clothes, sipping from a warm mug of tea. Somehow, it never occurred to me that when you jump off a boat in the middle of the ocean, the water is surprisingly cold. And it doesn't get any warmer on take 2. Here at Unqualified, we love State Farm because they provide coverage that meets your needs at a surprisingly great rate. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today. This episode of Unqualified is brought to you in part by ZocDoc. Who gets excited about trying a new restaurant that has 2 out of 5 stars? When it comes to finding healthcare, don't ratings matter even more? ZocDoc is a free app where you can compare doctors, read reviews from real patients, and even make same-day appointments. When I finally called to reschedule my dentist appointment, I was told that my dentist had been retired for nearly 3 years. In my defense, parking was a nightmare. Through ZocDoc, I found a new dentist who had great reviews, took my insurance, and whose office was actually within walking distance. I was also able to book an appointment instantly without talking to a receptionist who made me feel guilty about not having my teeth cleaned for 3 years. My new dentist didn't make me feel guilty either, and only suggested I floss a little more often. Whether you need a primary care physician, dentist, dermatologist, psychiatrist, eye doctor, or other specialist, ZocDoc makes healthcare easy. Now is the time to prioritize your health. Go to ZocDoc.com/unqualified and download the ZocDoc app. Sign up for free and book a top-rated doctor who might be available as soon as today. That's ZocDoc.com/unqualified. I feel like I smell like urine.
Urine?
I smell like urine. I don't think you have a very good sense of smell, though, right?
No. Why would you smell like urine?
I don't know.
That makes no sense.
I don't have a very good sense of smell either.
All right, we're going to call. Yeah, go ahead.
Listeners, we're calling Janine from the Johnny Galecki episode a few months back.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to listen to that episode, it's episode 53, Johnny Galecki Part 2, and it starts at the 2 minute and 5 second mark. Oh, shit. Wait, hold on. Fuck.
All right. Sim is in panic mode.
No, I'm not.
A little bit.
No.
It's fun to watch you in panic mode,
Got this.
though.
I got this.
I know. Oh. Do you want your can of soda?
Hello.
Hi, Janine.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
Hey, Janine.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Hey, thanks for touching base with us again. We had a lot of listeners wanting to know how everything sort of resolved itself, or if it did. Would you give us a little recap? And were we helpful at all?
Yeah, first tell us why you called in, or why we called you.
So I called in basically because I was having, an issue with a coworker. I'm married, and I work with a guy who initially we became friends, and it felt very comfortable, and I felt sort of safe because he was married too, or he is married. And so, even though there was some flirting and joking around. I just never thought that anything would physically happen between us. But eventually things did progress, and it became a physical relationship. And then I felt really torn and just sort of unhappy with myself. And even though I tried stopping it, it would stop, and then it would occur again, or he would, not that he was, controlling me in any way, but...
Well, he was charming you is what he was doing. You told us that he was charming you.
He was very, very charming. And every time I said, I don't think I should be doing this or we should be doing this, he would agree. But then a week later, it would just, be really sweet to me and give me all this attention. And I would just kind of fall back into it. So after I spoke to you guys, which it's been a while, actually the day after, I said, okay, well, first of all, I think you guys gave really good advice. I think it was Chris. I know he wasn't trying to make me feel bad, but I did feel bad. And I felt that even before I called. But
oh, no,
it just kind of was like a wake-up call, and it was something I think I needed to hear. I'm sorry?
Oh, no, I'm just sorry that my husband, he can lay down the law.
What did Chris say to you? Let's recap that.
He was just kind of like, it's not like you fucked up a one-time thing where you went out and did something that you regretted. You sort of kept going back, and this is like an ongoing thing, and it's not fair to your husband. It's not fair to his wife. You're potentially breaking up a family. And it was just all things that I think I've thought about, but to say it out loud or to hear someone say that to you out loud was definitely different than me just feeling guilty on my own. And I mean, I understand where he was coming from. It's just that being in this situation, I had never been in this situation before. And I think I told you guys this last time too, that, I've always looked at people who have cheated to be so low and awful. And I never thought that I would be in that predicament of being a cheater myself.
Yeah. I mean, it's an awful feeling to feel guilty, and it can kind of destroy oneself. My parents raised me on a healthy diet of guilt. So I feel guilty for lots of different things, but how did did anything change? From what I recall, I think Johnny said that you should tell your husband, which I don't know if I fully was on board with, but did anything change? Are you still seeing this guy? How did it all?
So the day after, like I said, I think hearing all the advice and everything that was said, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to take it one day at a time, and I'm going to I'm not going to cheat today. And then it was 2 days, and it was 3 days. And for a while, I, stuck to my guns, and even when he was being very charming, and, I said no. And so things were fine for a while. And then he actually left the company, for a little bit. He was basically sent to another city to work for a while. And I think just out of sight, out of mind really helped.
Oh, no, before we move on with the story, did you guys, when he left, did you guys have any texting contact or anything like that while he was gone?
We didn't really text as much. So before, initially, we used to email all the time and text all the time. But no, that sort of died down. And I think when he felt like I was very serious about not having that kind of relationship anymore, being that he was away, I guess he was preoccupied with other things. And I think that kind of was a wake up call for me too. And it made me feel like, he really wants me when I'm there. It's not as much of an emotional connection as I thought it was.
Right.
And so, yeah, that definitely helped. But then he moved back.
When did he move back?
And I'm sorry?
When did he move back?
He moved back about less than 2 months ago.
What's happened in the last 2 months?
And it's been, honestly, I hate to say this, but it's been sort of on and off. There's days where I can really resist and say no and not even care to see him, not make any effort to run into him and almost avoid him. And then there's days where he'll just text me or email me out of the blue, and it's really hard to stay away from. So I want to tell you that this is all good news, and,
What's going on in your marriage?
Things are good. I mean, things with us have always been good, and that's the thing. I feel like I'm really sort of living two different lives. My main focus is on my home life and my husband, and it's weird to say that because I have this other thing sort of going on, I guess part-time or whatever, but we take trips together, we do things together, we're overall happy, and I don't really quite know how to say that without it sounding weird, but we are, and that's sort of where I am.
Well, yeah, I think you said something really revealing earlier, which was when he was out of sight, out of mind, that you realized that it was a little more emotional. I mean, that you were disappointed that it wasn't more emotional. And which tells me that, you have obviously an emotional attachment with him. And it makes me think that you're kind of falling in love with him if you haven't been kind of already sort of in love with him, which is it's already been it's been pretty dangerous territory. But it sounds like it's even a little more dangerous. Would you want to be with him?
The thing is, I wouldn't. And sometimes I think, if we were both single and younger, I would maybe want to date him. But even if I dated him, I don't think I would want to stay with him.
Why?
I don't know. He's just not, I feel like he's not really my type. And guys that I've dated in the past, I guess I have always dated people who have been very secure in who they are.
Yeah, so he's like the unsafe guy. Clearly your husband makes you feel very safe, but doesn't also maybe, doesn't give you that dangerous element that maybe you're looking for, whether it's out of boredom or, and maybe, the reason why you wouldn't want to be with him is because you know that he's not very faithful.
Right. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And it's very hypocritical of me to say or think because I'm in it just as much as he is. But knowing that he's going or like cheating on his wife, I can't forget that aspect of who he is. So when I look at him, even though we have this connection and I like him, I feel, if anything, emotionally, when I spoke to you guys the first time, I was a lot more invested in him, and I was definitely torn in so many different ways and worried, and I was like, maybe I love him, I'm not sure, but now I feel more in control, and when I see him, I don't get the same butterflies. I'm okay if I don't see him again.
Oh, you
but then
are?
when
Okay.
I do see him, when I do see him, it feels, I guess, more of like a physical thing now between us when things do happen. But it does, I used to think about him all the time. I used to communicate with him all the time. And, if he texted me, I would text him back, or emails. And now sometimes when he emails me, it just doesn't feel like a priority. And and I think it's because when he was gone, I realized, it's not very emotional for him. So, like, why am I putting my heart on the line for someone like this? I just kind of had a wake-up call. Plus, again, like I said, what Chris said, made me feel horrible, but I think I needed to hear it.
Well, and then what about, like, does anyone else know at work? Does your husband have any inkling? Has he asked you any pressing questions that would make you believe that he knows anything? Like,
no, people at work, so this guy, he's actually pretty friendly and flirty with everyone. So, if anything, sometimes he even flirts with other people in a more obvious way in meetings or, whatever. And so it makes people just think that he's just this really friendly person.
Do other people at work think he's a little skeezy?
I don't think so. I think they actually think he's, a good husband, and which, in his own way, he probably is. No, he's like I said, he's very charming. So people just really like him, men and women alike. So I don't think anyone suspects anything.
I don't like this guy. I don't like the situation at all.
I don't either. So, but I hear you saying that maybe sometimes he flirts to like deflect the attention off of the affair that you guys are having.
Right.
But
he's so crafty.
Yeah, he's crafty, and
he's definitely crafty. And sometimes he'll tell me things, and I'm just like, "Why are you even worried about this?" Like he'll sort of almost plot things
like
so that
how
people won't notice. Like we were working on a project, and normally we're on the same team, and I mean that's how we sort of got close. But since he came back, he had a choice of either staying on the team or being on a different one. And he was like, I obviously want to work with you, but I'm going to be on this other team so that people don't think anything. But in my head, people weren't ever thinking anything between us to begin with. But it's like he'll do things like that and go out of his way, or in front of other people flirt with other people so that they don't see him flirting with me, or just, I don't know. I guess I can't think of too many examples, but things like that where he's always thinking. And I think in a way that's what I don't find attractive.
Has he brought up his wife in terms of saying to you, like, my wife can never find out, we can never tell anybody about this? Like, what level of how nervous is he that you will reveal this secret?
I don't think he's nervous that I would reveal this because he knows that I wouldn't want my husband to find out. So I think he feels pretty safe. And I don't think he thinks that I'm crazy in love with him. It's not like he thinks I'll have a moment of passion and will want to keep him for myself. I never really, I personally don't feel like I would. And I also don't show him too much that I even like him in that way. Our relationship has sort of died down a lot, I think, since we last spoke. And so now it's, I don't know, it feels a little bit more one-sided. So I don't think he's worried that I'll ruin his marriage by saying anything.
Do you think that, and this is a kind of a side issue, but do you think that he feels more secure because you're married, having an affair with you?
Oh yeah, he's mentioned that several times.
Of course.
Yeah. Oh man, this guy, I do not like him.
Well, let's talk about Janine for a second. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah,
I mean, how are you feeling right now?
I mean, part of me still feels stuck like I was before because I'm still in this, but like I said, another part of me feels more in control, and it's definitely less intense than it was and less frequent. Like I said, I don't think about him as much, so it's been a while, and in a way I'm a little bit numb to it. I still feel guilty, but I don't think the guilt is as strong, and I don't know.
Do you want to stay with your husband?
Yes.
You're sure?
Yes, positive.
Then I think there's only once again one answer,
But this time you really have to do this if you want this marriage to work.
Yeah, because otherwise, even if it doesn't come out, which I think
It's going to come out. It always comes out.
I think it does too. But even if it doesn't, then this is this horrible secret that you carry with you till you're in your 90s, or at least until you get dementia. And then maybe that's the only thing you talk about because you just have dementia and that's your only memory. And your husband's going to be like, what? Who's this guy that you keep talking about? But no, but I'm serious. Then it will, I think this is going to require more strength, than probably you've ever had to have before. And it's, I think that you have to, and I think you have to really plot this out in your head, what exactly the conversation is, with him. And I think, and while he may be giving you like a lot of physical pleasure that your husband may not be, is that true? Is the sex a lot better?
Yeah, but honestly, I think it's mostly, I don't think you have sex the same way with somebody who you sort of don't care about, and it's just sort of this secret, passionate thing versus the way you have sex with your husband. And I don't know. I've only been married once, so I don't know if that's
not true, Janine.
True.
That's not true at all.
But that's sort of how I feel right now, and I'm happy to hear that it's not true because I don't want that to be true. But that's sort of the truth for me at the moment.
Right. But also, and I know that you want to believe that you don't have an emotional attachment, but I think that you do, and whether that's not necessarily that you're in love with him, but you like the attention that he gives you, especially he's a popular person at work. There's probably lots of gals that are flirty with him because he clearly flirts, and so you like any normal person loves the attention from a charming, popular coworker. That's not abnormal, but what is abnormal is, maybe it's not abnormal, but what is inappropriate is you guys doing this to, and not only to your own emotional health, but to your partners and his wife and kids and your husband. And it's you guys, and he clearly is careless and clearly kind of a dick. And if it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. And it's so telling that he picked a married person because he finds security in that you won't tell because then it's going to destroy everybody. And so I think this guy is, and also that he didn't contact you all that. I mean, it sounds like he's not really in love with you, that he's not telling you that he wants to leave his wife. Not that I would recommend anything. I wouldn't necessarily be giving other advice, any different advice to somebody who is saying that. But, I think to me, Janine, I feel like you don't sound very happy, and that part worries me. And, cause I think that you're in a rough place right now. And even it says so much that you would call us and talk to us about this. It says a lot about your character and who you are, because I don't know if I would have that strength, to be honest with complete Hollywood idiots. But, so it says a lot about you, and I can hear that you're really torn, and I can hear that this is tormenting you. And I think for your own sake, once again, I really think that, I think you have to
cut the cord. She has to do it.
Yeah. And I think that you have to start viewing this guy not as charming, but as a sleaze, a calculated sleaze. And because that's what he is, who's incredibly selfish and narcissistic, and while the attention and the orgasms may be really fun, and even like the sneaking around can be fun, it's only momentary. It's only momentary, and then because truly, it makes me sad that you seem sad, and I want you to feel really good, and I want your husband to and you to have the best of your own self.
And please talk to your husband about what he can do to make you feel more appreciated if he's not doing so already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, although,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, gosh. I'm sorry that I know I can feel how torn you are.
I mean, I am, but at the same time, I also, I don't know. I kind of feel like other marriages, other people might be going through something way worse, or maybe someone's been in these exact same shoes. So I do want to be able to cut it off. I mean, that would be ideal, to be able to be strong enough, not just for a week, but for months and years. And because I do want to be married to my husband until I have dementia, like you said. So, and I know that is on me. I mean, it's both of us as a marriage, but for this, what we're talking about, it's me having to be stronger and to stick to what I think is right.
Yeah, I just think it's a little soul poisoning. It's one thing if you decide that you don't want to be in your marriage anymore, and that's a whole other journey.
But if she wants to work on the marriage and she wants to, if you
really want this, then this is what you have to do, and you have to end it. You have to, and please, as best as you can, start picking up on the cues that this guy's leaving for you. Like he's instead of viewing him as charming, and like start redefining his actions as sleazy and inappropriate. Because if it's not you, who knows who else? I mean, who knows what was going on the month and a half that he was gone? Who knows if there's other people at your own office that are married that are having affairs with him. I don't know what he tells his poor wife when he's busy all the time. But I think that he's really taking advantage of you in the situation, and I think you're letting yourself you continue to put yourself in this situation, and I think for your own heart and soul, I think you can't do it anymore.
Hey, Janine, by the way, I mean, I just have to say, I think that you're really brave for even coming on twice and sharing this incredibly personal information.
And like you said, you are not alone. That's why we got so many responses with our listeners about what was going on with you, because there's a lot of people that are in this exact same position. It happens all the time, but it doesn't mean that it's any less serious, and potentially it can be life destroying, and I don't know if you guys are careful about emails and texts and stuff, but if you've sent each other any sexy stuff, all that stuff is really vulnerable, and if his wife gets suspicious, if she isn't already, because I doubt you're the first person, you certainly won't be the last, that she probably has an inkling. Your husband might not, because you've never done this before, but I bet that she's got, especially if they've been together for a while, she's got some kind of a clue.
Yeah.
And that puts you in a really dangerous position too. You don't want her storming into your workplace, screaming at you. Anyway,
Janine, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And please know you're not alone. And we love you. And just take care of yourself. That's the most important thing to us here at Unqualified, is that you take care of your heart and your soul.
Thank you.
All right, we love you.
Love you too.
Bye, Janine.
Bye. I admire her so much for calling.
Yeah. That was so hard to do.
I know.
That was really hard. I'm sure it was really hard for her to do.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, and she said as much, like, I wish I had.
She put it all out there.
Yeah. I wish I had something, I wish I had.
I mean, all she's doing right now is just being honest. And it's really hard because what other advice can we give?
Yeah. Just that I hope that she starts to really view this guy for what he is. And I know that she says that it's physical and stuff, but also she gave some other clues that it's not, that she has an emotional attachment too. And maybe part of her does want it to be something else. And I don't know if I don't know. It's
a tough one.
It is.
Tough
it
one.
is.
Well,
we are unqualified.
We are unqualified. It's official. It's definitely official now. Anna, so let's take a quick break, and then we have one more call after this. Before we take our next call, we should point something out.
Yes.
One of our own is celebrating a birthday. Cassie, get over here.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
Thank
to you,
for
Cassie.
all that you do.
We don't have a cake, but we have a candle there.
We have a half-burnt candle.
Say hi to our listeners.
Guys.
Everyone,
Hi, listeners.
If you don't, of course, you've heard Cassie's name a bunch. She is our segment producer. She comes up with some of the amazing deal breakers and how would you proceed, and a true asset to Unqualified. And we absolutely
thanks, guys.
adore you and all of the work that you're doing, and just wanted to thank you and say happy birthday.
Happy
Thank
birthday, and thank
you.
you so much for you're
course.
indispensable. And we love you
guys.
so much.
I love you, and I love this candle.
Well, now blow it out and make a wish.
Wait, we were supposed to sing first.
Okay.
Did I
Wait,
jump
Nina,
again?
get you can take that mic and you can sing with us.
Sup, kids?
Okay, my most favorite song in the whole world. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cassie. Happy birthday to you.
Cassie, you rule.
Yay!
Aw, thanks, guys. 21. You've never even known.
I know.
what a
You look
gal.
great.
Wait, are you actually? I
Wait,
don't know.
Nina, are you serious?
You guys, I have no
We
idea.
keep forgetting that Nina is really, really young.
I've been
Aw,
conscious
thank
for
you,
like
guys.
8 years.
Of course.
Thank you. I'm sorry we didn't have more.
All right, so we're gonna.
Sim, do you know that Sim and I are the worst?
No, we're terrible.
We don't even. I don't know your birthday.
Yours is November 29th?
Yes.
You know why I know that? Because Amy's is November 25th. So I know yours is 4 days after. Do you know what month my birthday is?
I want to say April.
Close?
May.
Yes. May.
You had to mouth May to me. May, and then I have no idea.
May 22nd.
May.
I'm a
I
Gemini.
was going to go someplace in the
Yeah.
teens. Okay.
So we do have another update, and
Yes.
this is from Charlene. And Charlene was from episode 72, Chris Hardwick, part 2. So if you want to listen to that call first, that starts at the 27:43 mark. So push pause on this episode, go down to episode 72, drag your thumb across to 27:43, listen to that call, and push pause, then go back to this episode.
Oh my God.
And then you can listen to the rest of the update.
Oh, Lord.
All right. So now we're going to call Charlene. And she was 29. She is 29, I should say. And she's in Las Vegas.
You know, I have mixed feelings about announcing people's ages.
It's important.
All right. We can talk about that later.
Hello.
Hi, Charlene. It's Anna and Sim.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, thanks for returning to us. It's brave and kind of you.
Of course. My pleasure.
So many listeners have been emailing and tweeting, and they just want to know what happened. So before we get into that, tell us why we called you first. Why did you write in?
I had been experiencing I guess for a period of about 10 months, maybe a little bit more, somebody had been leaving anonymous notes at my desk. And they were generally
complimentary in nature, but I had no idea who they were. I tried the first time I left a note, I tried to engage with them because, I thought it was, it was nice, but they never responded, and this kept going on and kept going on, and it seemed to get a little bit invasive after a while, and so I called in to you guys just thinking like, I myself didn't take it seriously initially when I called, and given it had been 10 months, I probably should have. When I called you guys, I was like, oh, maybe they'll think it's like a clever way for me to get rid of this person, like leaving me these notes. But when I called in, repeating the situation out loud, in the context of speaking with you guys, it kind of came to be a little bit more of a serious situation where it pretty much seemed like harassment that this person was mentioning my boyfriend. This person mentioned seeing me around work in areas where I still didn't know who they were, didn't know that they were watching me, and obviously knew multiple things about me. Well, I knew nothing about them, and they weren't offering up any of that information. So it kind of alluded itself to being a kind of a situation of harassment rather than somebody, just giving me nice compliments every now and again.
Yeah,
and,
I remember how weird it as we dug sort of deeper into your call, how weird the whole situation started to seem like getting pretty creepy. And
yeah, just kind of, like I said, mentioning my boyfriend and just, saying like, oh, I thought that I shouldn't do it, but I'm going to keep writing you anyways, even though I know you have a boyfriend. Just being very disrespectful in that light. And then just, like I said, just mentioning seeing me places, and just when I said it out loud, I was like, wow, I'm talking about somebody like watching me and me having no clue. And I was just like, it just kind of, with the advice that you guys were giving me, as well as me just vocalizing it, I was like, the situation's not very normal. And so, you guys,
what did we tell you to do? What did we tell you? And Amy also.
I think we freaked you out.
Yeah.
Yes, you all very, very vehemently advised me to go to HR, and that's exactly what I did. And, I informed them of everything that was going on, and it was, it's definitely to my benefit. And I guess more or less because, since then, I haven't received any notes. They initially had me have a disclaimer that HR wrote was legal to advise anybody that was going to harass me in any facet, not just leaving notes, would face some sort of termination.
Did they send out like this mass email to the company?
No, and that's the other thing is it was also brought to my attention that there were no security cameras on my floor, at least not in that area. And so they were not able to tell me who it was. I still don't know who it was. But like I said, since then they've had the disclaimer on my desk. And then not too shortly after, we were able to move me to a completely different place within the company. And it's kind of it's literally called the annex. So it's very kind of hidden. Like you have to very much so intentionally. No. It's actually fine. It's a nice quiet area, which is not bad at all. It's just I say annex in the way that like you really have to intentionally go down there. Like you have to work down there or be meeting with somebody down there in order to have a purpose being there. Whereas my desk before was very much so a high traffic area. So that kind of lent itself to making it easy for this person to,
Like, I hope you still feel like you're a part of the gang or whatever, that you don't feel.
Oh, well, I was initially the first person to move to that area, and then it kind of became a department following suit.
Okay.
So I was kind of like the priority person to get help because they were aware, that the situation was happening, and so they were like, okay, you first, and then we'll figure out a way to like move everybody else in the department down there. So it kind of coincided with a move that was already in place.
And so clearly it must have been a relief that they took it very seriously, or maybe, I don't know if not a relief, but just how we ended up being like, no, this is fucked up. They were probably pretty nervous too, I would think.
in HR, they were pretty darn uncomfortable about it, and they were definitely on my side and very supportive. They were pretty remiss about not being able to do more, in terms of being able to find out who the person was and things like that. I mean, at this point in time, I guess it feels inconsequential to know who they are to a certain extent. Like I wanted to for a while. I was just kind of like, I experienced a little like moment of anger and just kind of wanting to be like, I just felt like indignantly that they kind of needed to know that is not a comfortable way to approach somebody.
Sure.
And I guess it's kind of been like the moral for me at the end of the day is just kind of like, making sure that I watch out for myself in a situation that, isn't quite uncomfortable. And, just also kind of like talking about situations also to kind of gain different perspective, because it's still like, even now when I tell people the story, or tell them that I was, on the podcast and I spoke with you guys, I'm like kind of embarrassed. I'm like, how did I like not register this for what it was, and
it's so common. I feel like, I know it's like it's different, but every once in a while I'll get like a semi-creepy fan letter and I'll kind of laugh about it. And then I'll show it to somebody else and they'll be like, oh my God, this is fucked up.
Yeah, I've seen some of those. They're really fucked up.
Oh no.
But you know what I mean? But it's like, I'll kind of not laugh about it, but I'll be like, oh, that's weird. And then I'll like show it to somebody. It is like the idea of getting perspective on when you're doubting yourself. Is this just mild, or is this bordering on weird? Like you kind of have to bounce that idea off other people sometimes. And I think women especially, we're, my mom, when I was in high school, gave me this book called The Gift of Fear, which
great.
Exactly.
Oh, how nice. Thank you
is totally, it's terrifying. But the book has some interesting concepts. It's a little archaic, but the idea that a lot of women are taught sort of politeness over trusting their gut when something is creepy, and so I think it's great that you called and got in perspective and hopefully like talk to your friends and your boyfriend about this stuff, because I think it is in our nature to be somewhat dismissive of, it's easy for us to be like, well, maybe this person is just trying to give me a compliment, when really they're overstepping their bounds.
It's harassment.
Exactly. And purposely trying to make somebody feel uncomfortable. I bet this person is a magician, like as a side hobby.
I would
seriously
agree with you.
Find out who like the magicians are, the hobby magicians.
If anyone is moonlighting as a magician,
are you a survey?
Or like whoever has a sudden drone hobby. That's another. That's
a new. By the way, Charlene,
that's
a new on the list now of people that Anna will not date. She added a new person. Yeah. It's the what is it? The hobbyist who
the drone hobbyist.
The drone hobbyist.
I mean, I can get on board with that. The only cool thing I've ever seen a drone do is I've seen like photographers will like attach a camera to a drone and they'll take a video that will zoom out from like a landscape of like a cliff on like a tropical island.
Yeah, that's like the Ansel Adams of drone. But that's cool.
Outside of that, I'm like, what do you need that for?
Right. I'm really glad that you did what you did, and I'm glad that it stopped, and I'm glad that it, really glad that it didn't escalate, and I'm glad that you talked to people about it, because you should not feel like you're being watched at your workplace. You shouldn't have to donate, or not donate, but you shouldn't have to dedicate a majority of time thinking about who's watching you and trying to figure that out when you've got other shit on your plate. And
but so do you feel safe now? Do you feel completely safe?
I do. And I mean, the other component of like speaking with other people about it is, I was told stories about other people who had experienced similar things and had like ignored it and unfortunately paid consequences for it because, you know, they were like, oh, this isn't a big deal. It's whatever. And, you know, I honestly heard some pretty harrowing things of, you know, things escalating, people getting hurt, and just, you know, I've had other experiences in my life where like I didn't take the opportunity to speak out for myself or think of myself in, you know, terms of, you know, other people trying to invade my space or invade my safety, and you know, or my, you know, just well, you know, other things along those lines, and like paid the consequences later, you know. And so I'm just like, you know, this is another lesson that like, because somebody who has need to take,
somebody who has like that kind of predatory mentality, who can convince themselves that it's harmless, that they're somehow giving you a compliment, can convince themselves that other predatory behavior that escalates is also harmless. And that like definitely borders on, you know, that's psychotic. That can be, you know what I mean? Like somebody who can convince themselves, oh, well, she wants this. She likes this. She likes the, you know, like my little flattery notes, or, you know, that then they can convince themselves that it's okay to like follow you into the parking lot and follow you home and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and me not saying anything about it gives them the wherewithal to think that like, yeah, it is okay. So it's like, you know, no, you have to like set boundaries so you can make, you know, whatever changes, even if it's not me being able to confront them, or, you know, HR or any other sort of authority being able to confront them, at least like me moving and not being available to them.
Fuck yeah, Charlene.
Setting at least that boundary, boundary, you know, to say like, hey,
And I hope that your call has helped a lot of people, because you stood up for yourself, and you like.
He won't do it again.
He won't do it again. He took Charlene, you took our totally unqualified advice and you did something about it the next day. That is so fucking rad.
That's awesome. It just sucks that he still has a job there. I hate that. But other than that, he won't do it to anyone else.
Yeah, no, thank you guys very much, because it definitely put, like I said, things into perspective for me, and I, you know, snapped into action, and now I'm not getting any more like weird anonymous notes.
I will say, I don't know if this story is over yet, though.
You think he'll come back? You think he'll pop up again?
I don't know if it'll be to Charlene. I doubt it'll be to Charlene. I don't think so. But I think that this kind of person might pop up in a different way to a different person. In a different way. It might not be notes on the desk, but it might be a different kind of obsession with somebody new, or like.
Right.
I think that there's.
Well, let me hear about it. I'm going to send him to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Her. And
yeah. No, but I'm serious. It sucks, but that is. It seems like
it is unfortunate.
On the page, literally, it seems harmless, but the deeper psychoses of somebody like that could be. It's going to come out in a different way. I think. Because I don't trust people. I'm cynical about that kind of.
I totally understand that. I mean, and that is the one kind of unfortunate thing, is not being able to know who this person is, so they can like face some sort of consequences, or be like, you know, formally addressing this issue, and how like, you know, wrong and uncomfortable and inappropriate it is. You know, that is unfortunate, you know.
But at least, Charlene, you can like keep your eyes and ears open in like the coffee break room or whatever. If some gal is like casually complaining about like, oh, this is so weird, somebody left a rose on my car, you can be like, ding, ding, ding. Wait a minute. Like,
it could escalate from a rose to something else.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, at least you could, you know, you can at least flag if that kind of behavior is happening with somebody else, with little clues, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, no, definitely. That would. It's just kind of like the snowball effect. You guys gave me that advice. If I'm ever privy to anybody else experiencing something similar, especially here, you know, in my work environment, I will be like, do not just treat that flippantly. Take it seriously. You never know. You really don't. So.
Yeah. And you know what? What's cool is that you stood up for yourself. I'm sure HR is, you've also asserted yourself as a strong person, you know, and I think that's ultimately really important as you climb the ladder as well. So good for you.
Thank you.
We're proud of you, Charlene.
Yeah. I would like to.
Thanks, guys.
my demented mind would like to heat up a unrolled coat hanger and stick it up his urethra, but that's me.
Oh my God.
Just me. That
sounds awful. That sounds like the worst type of pain I can possibly imagine.
I don't know.
Wow.
Seems kind of fun, right?
It is quite visceral. Yeah. It's quite visceral.
That comes from my
I'm sure
sick mind.
effective. I'm sure effective.
Charlene, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think that I'm sure that you're going to inspire and comfort a lot of our listeners.
I hope so. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And keep us posted if there's any more.
Yes. Let me know if you ever find out who the guy is.
All right. I will let you guys know.
Thanks, Charlene.
Thanks, Charlene.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I seriously.
Good job, Anna. See, look, we're making a difference.
I can't believe it. But I really think the story isn't quite over.
All right. Let's see how it unfolds. Let's see if it continues to unfold.
I think that she's probably scared this person enough that it won't, especially because the note was from HR was on her desk.
Yes.
But I think that given time, this person might reveal themselves in different ways to a new coworker. And
all right, let's hope that doesn't happen.
I agree, but I just think that I don't know, the confidence of somebody leaving creepy notes like that is. It's delusional.
You don't think that those people will get the message? You think that they'll resurface in some other form?
I think it's going to be a little while, but yeah, I do.
Okay.
Am I is that being,
pessimistic?
Yeah.
A little bit? Yeah, a little bit, but who cares? You know what? You're being cautious. So that's a good thing.
I just think a little bit, once a creep, always a creep.
I agree with that. Once a creep, always a creep.
Well, that's not true. I did stalk. Well, no, I'm creepy.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah, I stalked an
What did you stalk?
An ex. I told you about this in college.
How did you stalk him again?
I just knew. I didn't stalk him, but I just knew his whole class schedule. So I would, accidentally bump into him after class.
That's not really stalking. That's just, you're
a friendly bump-ins.
Everyone does that. Come on. Everyone has done that at some point.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, no, I didn't follow him out on dates or anything like that. I did show up at his fraternity a few times, and his fraternity brothers had to walk me back to my dorm. I know. I was pathetic.
No,
I was
listen,
pathetic.
You wanted to go after what you wanted.
Well, you know what? No, it wasn't
that. It showed gumption.
I just thought that I really didn't think that our relationship was really over. And turns out it wasn't over.
So you were right.
Well, yeah, he asked for me back after a few months. Probably after, I don't know, maybe he got laid a few times and then he was like, oh yeah, I'll take that dorm rat back.
And then what happened?
And then I leapt into his arms after he called me late one night. I had been actually out on a date with another fraternity guy, which was very exciting. Got back to my dorm room. It was probably about midnight, and the phone rang. I answered it, and it was him. And he said, I want you back. And I ran over to his to his fraternity from my dorm. Mm-hmm. I wasn't like, well, then come on over then. Nope. I was like, yeah. I ran into his arms. We spent the night together, and I remember waking up the next morning. I remember this very vividly, waking up the next morning and looking at his long fingers and listening to his mean cackle, he was he always laughed at other people. And I remember feeling like, oh, I don't like this person.
It just hit you right there?
Yeah, and I also think going through the humiliation of being in the gut, the heartbreak broke something in me. So I didn't romanticize him. It was like being with him, I suddenly didn't romanticize him. For those 3 months that I had obsessed about him, and was miserable and crying all the time, it broke something in me. So then when I viewed him as ethereal, and and then then actually being back with him, I was like, oh no, he's flawed.
Right.
Like,
and then how long did it last after?
2 months, and I marked a date on my calendar to break up with him.
And did you break up with him on that date?
Yep, I did.
How did you break up with him?
I went over. He left his fraternity.
Okay.
And I went over. He was living in this apartment. And I walked over there one morning and I said, I'm leaving you. And he was very dramatic, which was one of the things I really liked about him, of course. And he pulled open his fridge door, he pounded a beer, and then he threw like the empty aluminum can against the wall. And he said, you're going to be back here in less than 2 weeks begging for me.
Oh my God.
And
what did you say?
I was like, no, I'm not. And in the back of my head, part of me was like, shit, I guess that option is taken off the table because my pride is already like, I can't, now I really can't.
Now you absolutely cannot.
I absolutely cannot. So, and then I left. And then a few months later, he got really dramatic with me and wanted me back, and I never went back with him.
Good for you.
Thanks.
But part of you, was it ego that you thought, you know what, I can get him back? So did you want to just see for your own ego if you can get him back?
I mean, he was also my high school boyfriend. Like I thought he was my first love. And I went to, like Felicity, I went to University of Washington because of him. Mm-hmm. And he broke up with me 2 weeks, maybe even less than, into my freshman year.
He was your Scott Speedman.
He was my Scott Speedman, but we were actually together. I had my promise ring.
Oh.
Yeah, I had my promise ring. But then he stopped answering my pages. Dear listener, that was when we had
this really dates us, doesn't it?
Pagers. Yeah. He stopped answering my pages, and I ran into him on campus, and I was like, what's going on? What's happening? Why haven't you been talking to me? And he said, oh yeah, I've been meaning to, I'll never forget this. Oh yeah, I've been meaning to tell you I want to see other people.
Wow.
And I was like, I was just gutted. I was like, that's how you're breaking up with me? I've been paging you for 3 days, and and I went over to his fraternity a couple times before and his fraternity brothers would always block the front door. And they'd be like, no, he doesn't want to talk to you. And I was just like, okay, are we not together? I have no idea what's going on. Truly baffled.
College relationships.
I know.
This is so typical. It's you look back and you think, how silly was I? How ridiculous was this? But you know what? At the time, it's the most important thing in the world.
Oh my God. It consumed me. I mean, I was 17. I don't know. Yeah. I was like writing poems and letters and like, why?
You know what? But it probably brought out a more creative side in you.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll look at it that way.
Yeah. Well, then I'll tell you about the adventures I had after that. After I became, I don't know. I spent my college years searching.
We should do an episode just about your college
years.
We should absolutely do one full episode. We talk about all of your college years and the relationships and the hardships and the breakups.
All it was just trying to find a group. Trying to find whether it was the hacky sack group or the rave group or like the dorm brats and the weed or like the fraternity guys.
Just trying to belong.
Trying to belong. And I never did. I was like, I never quite got it. And
do you think you have it now?
I don't know. I think I'm more comfortable with myself now. But
I would hope so.
And I'm happier. I did. Of course, I didn't draw people to me because I was angry.
When do you think you lost some of that anger? After college?
Yeah. I think probably it was a slow during my 20s and moving to Hollywood and having a whole new group in Hollywood, and not getting to act and be accepted in my acting community. That was
we can dig deeper on this.
Okay, yeah, sorry guys.
No, I know. I'm sure everyone's interested, but we should.
Thanks, Dr. Sarna, for your time. Today, dear podcast listeners, I have the great pleasure of introducing one of my best and dearest friends, Ari Graynor, and our lives are so busy that we never get to see each other. But I am so happy that I got her here. I haven't seen her in a long time, but every time I do, she brings me so much joy. We met making a movie called What's Your Number? And she played my little sister who's getting married, my beautiful little sister who's getting married to a very handsome guy. And it makes my character kind of insecure. And we became really close during the making of that movie. We laughed a lot. And we had a lot of really fun days and fun nights. Probably didn't sleep a ton.
I don't think it was the most restful time of my life. It's probably true.
And I'm entering into, I was asking Sim earlier if I should even talk about this part, but entering into slightly tricky territory because Chris Evans was our lead and he's so charming and so lovely. And he's one of those guys, like my husband, I feel like when he pays attention to you, it really feels like the sun is shining on you. And so you and I kind of like had this really fun, like totally professional friendship with him. And we would all like make each other laugh all day long or whatever. And he's unbelievably charming and funny. And we were like this little trio. And then my sweet husband, whom I'm crazy about, of course, I love to pieces. And I'm madly in love with him. He comes to town to do a cameo.
And ruined everything. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, because suddenly Chris Evans and Chris Pratt are best friends.
They're best friends, and then no one was paying attention to me anymore because the Chris's
Ari and Anna
to each other.
We're just on the outs.
What I remember is that was the first time I got introduced to your really funny party games. That both inspire and terrify at the same time. I remember one time being in Gloucester and we were on location and it was you and me and Chris and I think and Oliver Jackson Cohen who played your fiance.
Yeah.
And I think so sometimes like the games that you guys play will be like kind of role playing, let's pretend games. And so I think
doesn't sound like me.
I think it must have been a different Anna. Sorry. It was like a different movie I was remembering. But I think this one was a spontaneous live action role play of the Hills, but of a recreated version of the Hills where we had to on the spot sort of become these other characters.
Was I just so obnoxious?
No, it's always the best when you do this. And my favorite version of the story was one time, this was after the movie and another story, but it was Chris's birthday in New York. Do you remember this? And you guys were staying at an apartment.
Yes.
Of somebody who had, I think she was a documentarian.
Yes.
Who had all of these awards. And you decided that in honor of Chris's birthday, we should each pick an award and then walk up the stairs and fake present Chris with an award.
Because she was this really acclaimed documentarian who would rent out her unbelievable apartment in the West Village to actors who were shooting or whatever. And she had like an Emmy. She had like a
Peabody Award.
Like there was like 20 of them.
And it was this really funny group, and it was a small group, but I remember John Krasinski was there, Billy Crudup was there.
Was Emily Blunt? No, maybe she wasn't.
No, she wasn't there. But it was a small group, and you do this, which like I said, it is both the most inspiring and scary thing when it happens, because you and Chris are so great with the pretend world. And this is what made me think of this when we were doing this Hills-like game with Ollie, where you just want to throw yourself completely into the game, and also you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I know.
And so we came up and we had to present these awards to this little group. And it was maybe like, of all of the jobs I've ever had in my life, it was the scariest moment for me. the pressure to be not from you, but on your own of being like, well, I have to.
And you're holding
say something.
like
I
Emmy.
think I was holding a Peabody. I don't want to brag, but I was presenting Chris with a Peabody, and coming up.
Poor
on the
woman
spot,
does not know that we like manhandled all her awards. Okay, sorry.
Anyway, that was it. But anyway, so that was, we played a lot of fun games like that.
Do you remember what you said to Chris?
I don't remember. I think I blocked it out because it felt like whatever it was probably wasn't.
I bet it was
smart and funny enough.
hysterical.
No, because no one is funnier than you and Chris in those situations.
Well, I love you for saying that, but I bet you were brilliant. I bet you said something like,
"Oh, stop!" But like, tell me again if you want.
I bet you said something like, "Tonight, we are so honored to present Chris Pratt with the Peabody Award for all of his Peabody accomplishments."
I think probably that was like word for word the speech.
But it was really fun staying in that apartment, and I hope that poor woman doesn't I'm sure she found lots of greasy fingerprints all over her awards, but it was really fun to play like award acceptance and giving. And all I have is my Stony Award. That's pretty much
What's a Stony Award?
It's from High Times magazine.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's a bong. And I got it for a movie I did called Smiley Face.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't talk about it if I wasn't so proud of it.
Right.
But that's pretty much my award experience.
Sure.
And
That's a really good one to have.
I've been able to present a couple times, big awards, and you feel the heft of them in your hand, and then you give them over. And I don't feel as bad as I would have thought I would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
So gracious of you.
Well, mostly I feel like I don't necessarily, the whole award stuff confuses me so much.
Yeah.
I'm not a part of it. When I was at the Critics' Choice Awards last year for Mom, and I was sitting next to Chuck Lorre, and Mom was up for Best Comedy or whatever, and we didn't win. And I turned to Chuck and I said, I gotta tell you, I don't feel any sense of disappointment because I don't know the feeling of winning. And he said, I don't either. And it was this moment of like, because I maybe once you start winning awards, maybe then I don't know. I like to think, is this like the silver lining? Is this like...
Well, how does Allison feel?
Well, Allison...
Because she's won 7 awards.
Yeah, she's won a ton. And I think that she's so gracious, and she's always so like unbelievably honest about her her gratitude and everything. But I do think that when I remember at that moment, I looked at her and she seemed a little more upset than I was. Like, maybe the curse of winning is, and I don't know how she feels about this exactly, but maybe the curse of winning is like when you don't win it, the pain becomes even more painful.
Because if there's an expectation level, whenever she's nominated, people assume that she's going to win.
To be said, whether it's awards or anything in life, low expectations or just general hopelessness is better than great hope or expectations.
Right. I feel like a bad scenario for me personally would to be nominated for something big and then not win, and then the next year not get nominated.
Right. A nightmare. People say like it is better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And it's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Last one is pretty shitty. So I'm just kidding. No, it is better to have loved and lost.
You know what? Yeah, I'm a more human person. I feel emotions more deeply now that I have
so gracious for that beautiful experience.
I've been rejected. Yes.
Nothing will ever live up to that time when I was satisfied by love or an award.
I have asked Allison, like, so in those 2 months when you get nominated, and then and she handles everything so well, but And as much as you want to suppress the idea of like, this, I need to
compartmentalize.
Thank you. This idea that I just can't obsess about it. But then when you have people every day saying, congratulations on your nomination. What are you going to wear? Congratulations on your nomination. What are you going to wear? That's so amazing. So you can't help but have it on your mind as much as you want to. Anyway, point being, I'm really lucky I've never been nominated.
Well, I think the point being, you're really lucky that you have a High Times Award. That feels like
I do. My Stony. I am
You're
very proud.
Stony.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Wait, you also have I thought you had an MTV award too.
Nope.
Oh.
Only nominated Sim. Thanks for bringing that up.
Oh,
fuck you, Sim.
What were you nominated for in the MTV Movie Award?
Best Kiss.
That's always been a little bit of a dream.
Oh.
Who was the best kiss with who?
It was for Scary Movie when I get like we do this special effect where my tongue literally gets tied to my lover's tongue, and it's disgusting. And
who could have beat you on that? Who won that year? Do you remember?
Probably something that was actually romantic. I can't remember.
Like maybe it was the year when Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling made out.
I think that was the year right after.
Okay.
But something like that was more romantic. Oh, I you know what it was? It was that dance movie with Julia Stiles.
Oh yeah, Save the Last Dance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So our you win some,
you lose.
Yeah.
But that was a great kiss.
I don't remember that kiss specifically.
I don't either, but I'm assuming it was a really great kiss for it to win. Yeah.
Yeah, because always the most talented the most talented kisses and the most talented people always win,
especially
awards.
the MTV Movie Awards.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ari, the challenge during this podcast at the perfect moment, I definitely need you to tell Sim to fuck off.
Even if I'm not saying anything, well, like what if I just shut up the entire time?
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
All right, so that's your challenge for the next hour.
I'll find the right time to tell you when to fuck off. Yeah.
I love Sim. He's as all the listeners know, he's one of our best friends. But Ari, okay, so wait, I do want to talk a little bit about the movie we met on, which was called What's Your Number? Because I think that that we touched on some really some poignant issues that I think that we're all as a society trying to get past. Mm-hmm. But the idea of are men concerned about how many people we've slept with?
Right.
Have you ever been asked that?
I don't know that I've ever been asked that directly. But I think it is a funny thing and I think this is a man and women thing where I felt this with men in the past before, where in the beginning of something, you can be really attracted to the fact that that either or it seems like they've had sex with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And then there's a certain point in the relationship where then that fact turns. Like there's been people at first where I'm like, yeah, they're so sexy and they've been with all these people and that's attractive. And then you get however many months or a year in, and then suddenly you hate that fact about them.
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I do think the flip side, though, so you haven't really been asked like how?
I mean, I think it's come up before probably, but without getting overly specific, it's not, it's I feel like it's an I mean, this is also interesting, but I feel like it's an appropriate number-ish for being a woman of my age who spent both a lot of times in relationships and there shouldn't be an appropriate number.
Right.
You're right. So I just, right.
But I want to tell you.
I just mean appropriate as in it's not one that elicits a great response either way. Like it's not like, oh, you've only slept with 2 people. That's surprising. Or, oh, you've slept with 400 guys. That's a lot of people.
Right.
It's.
Because so when I first started dating Chris, I did that really dumb thing that I'm I'm embarrassed of, but because, and my parents, by the way, are upstairs taking a nap. Perfect. And but they always wanted me to remain a virgin until I was married, which is why I think that they had me in headgear for so long.
Would they say that to you growing up? Like, was that something in your family that was sort of commonly known? Like, you should wait until you're married to have sex?
Yeah. Yeah. And for not being a very religious family, it was always confusing to me a little bit, and of course there's, and also my mom loved to discipline through guilt.
Sure.
Which
I'm Jewish, so I know all about that.
Yeah. And my mom, we can get to this later, but I have some suspicions about our family heritage.
Oh.
I mean, just very much like could not adore us more. We were the most brilliant children, my brother and I, that ever walked the earth. At the same time, guilt.
Uh-huh.
So anyway,
okay,
we can link into that later on.
Okay, great.
And maybe I'll bring them down after they take their nap.
Oh, fun. Get them involved. I love it. Yeah, guilt is such a funny construct. And yeah, it runs rampant everywhere. I'm always fascinated by people who say they don't really experience guilt, because I feel guilt all the
like
time about everything. Is that the definition of a psychopath?
I don't know. But it seems like if you don't feel guilt, then there's something wrong, right?
But like, I'll feel guilt about nothing. Like, it only just recently turned where if I even saw like a friend calling me, every time the phone rang, I'd be like, oh my God, I've done something wrong. What'd I do? Even though it was like just somebody calling to say hi. That's deeply rooted guilt, but I'm working on it. So I'm on top of it.
But I got to tell you though, we have a lot in common in that way, for sure.
And it's not ever because I've even done anything wrong, but it's like, I don't know where that's what I think is so fascinating about guilt. Like, where, why?
It's such a specific kind of narcissism that I feel.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel very deeply, for sure. But anyway, so when Chris and I first started dating, I was 30, and I would bring it up like, haha, can you believe it? My numbers are low. And he would look at me like, why the fuck would I care? Which was so wonderful and kind of the theme of the movie that we did.
Yeah. Like, I don't know anyone that has cared.
Yeah.
Any guy that's scared?
No, that has cared.
Sim and I were talking about this earlier. Sim, can we get open with this?
Sure.
Okay, so Sim
Absolutely.
does care.
Wait, what? I never said that.
You know what, Sim? Fuck off. Boom, boom.
I never said I care. I just think that I do believe that there is this incredible double standard here, where if I'm gonna do some quick math, let's just say a woman started having sex at 18, okay? And by the time she's 30, let's just say she had sex with 2 different partners a year until the time she is 30. You're looking at, that's 12 years times 2. You're looking at 24 partners at the age of 30 for a woman. Right. I know to some guys that may seem like it's a lot, but that's only one guy every 6 months. I'm not counting like long-term relationships. I'm just speaking strictly as an average here. But I just do know that for some guys, 24 guys is a lot, whereas 24 girls for men doesn't seem like a huge number at all.
Yeah.
So there is that double standard.
Well, yes, and also we live in the LA world where there's because lots of people are breaking up with each other all the time because we're used to instability and we find comfort in instability or whatever. So there's it's a little bit different as in other parts of the country. What I really think men are worried about when a woman has a high number, or what they perceive as a high number, is a better lover. And it's one of the very few powers we have as women, is that a guy is afraid that somebody had bigger anatomy. I feel like my parents are in the kitchen, so I can't use the word
Sure.
dick.
Yeah.
Cock. But I think that's like one of the very few kernels of power that we have as women, is that men are insecure about previous lovers being somehow better.
Well, I think part of it is an age thing too, where I think when you're younger, and I don't know, I don't know if I move past this or not. We'll see, next go around relationship I'm in or something. But when you're younger, I think there's a sense of security by knowing everything. I feel like I used to want to know everything about a person's past that I was with because it made me somehow be closer to them or have a sense of, oh, if I know, I'm sort of a part of it or I'm in on it, or the ways when you're young too, it's not always the worst thing to feel. I mean, this is so terrible to admit, but I think this is true, where sometimes you like making someone feel a little bit insecure because it helps your position. These are sort of like the immature things we do in relationships. And then hopefully as we get older, and I think what I've learned and I hope to integrate is that, I actually don't want to know everything. It actually doesn't matter. It actually is only gonna get in my head. I don't want to know. I don't care. We've now, I'm in my early 30s. Whoever I'm with, they're at least in their early 30s, if not older. It means that luckily, any person that you would be with would be somebody who's lived a full life, and that includes sex with people, hopefully. So you have And
it's also like, how do we, there's a good strategy in not revealing insecurity. And as we were talking a little bit earlier before we started recording about the idea of our partner being our best friend. And while we want that, of course, to be true, we also need things from other people, and you don't necessarily have to open up your whole self to your partner. And maybe it's okay to be a little bit like, I want to make you feel good in this moment. I want to laugh. You know what I mean?
I think there's a difference between being honest with how you feel about something and then sharing every thought that goes through your mind. And I was saying this to you guys before that a while ago, I was dealing with some relationship stuff, and I had a friend's mom who's Russian just say something I loved.
Yes, this is so good.
So great. And I was, just talking about, all these things that I was sharing and blah, 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 and what was going on. And she said, a partner is someone that you go to the movies with and you have a good time with, and maybe if you break your leg, they drive you to the hospital, but they are not your best friend and they are not your therapist. And I was like, yeah, but love, no, but love means that you share all of yourself, and we can only love each other if he sees all the parts of me, and he has to see the worst parts of me, and I have to see the worst parts of him for us to love each other. And that's what intimacy is. And why that intimacy? You like that part of yourself. Why you want him to like it? And it's true.
It's so wise.
I don't know if I'll be able to follow it with that closely, but I do think there's something interesting in not sharing everything.
Totally. And that's what that's the purpose of friends. And some friends give me different things and in my life that Chris can't give me, and other friends give me other things, and I hope that I give them other things. And I think that we have had this mentality in the last decade where your husband needs to be your best friend. And I just think that's too simplistic of an idea. Mm-hmm. It's yes, because
it's not just your best friend. It's they have to be your best friend, and they have to be the greatest lover you've ever had, and they have to be this, and
right. Yeah. And there's a reason why I think I learned after my previous relationship that my own curiosity is a really poisonous thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know Chris's passwords. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't look through his
and I feel, and not that I feel like he has anything to hide from me or anything. I just feel like if you want to find something, then you're going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And I take comfort in that now, just being like, nope, don't be curious. Trust that, take him for his word.
Yeah.
Trust that, and don't be suspicious. And I have a kind of an embarrassing story that relates to this. So
Great.
We were in Baton Rouge. We went to a party with some of his castmates, and the next morning, we got into the car to go to Starbucks, and there was a like a napkin with a phone number. It was like Jennifer, like blah blah blah, like whatever the phone number was. And I was like, oh my god, someone was like giving Chris her phone number. And I said, baby, I don't want to bring this up, but I found this, and I don't really it's been troubling me. And he said, honey, that was the girl that you met last night. And she wanted to hang out, and she gave you her number.
You do love to pick up new friends wherever you go.
That's true. That's completely true. If anything, Anna solicited that number.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, I was really embarrassed. I was like, oh yeah, of course I remember. Oh, of course. Oh my God, yeah.
Oh, your best friend, your new best friend, Jennifer.
What a jerk I was.
Yeah. No, the snooping thing, no good.
No good.
But I also think, even in a way, and this is what makes me feel, not to sound like a 100-year-old person, but it's also the bummer about social media and just internet stuff now too, which is like, there's so many places to go deep diving to try to find information either about somebody that you've just met or somebody you're with or an ex. It really, I think, takes a lot of discipline to try to, if it's a new person, say, I'm just going to try to learn about this person from what I'm actually experiencing with them, and not all the information I could find about them online, or asking a million people about them, or, not doing crazy searches on them after. I mean, and it's impossible. And I think a lot of people sort of go in waves with it, but I think it is a new kind of discipline that people have to try to instigate now.
And are you good about it? Are you good about not researching?
Well, the problem is if there's any name that passes through my mind, however brief that interest or curiosity might be, I just have to make sure. I mean, I talk to my mom all the time. We're very close. But I know if I tell her any name, she goes to the ends of the internet to find out everything about that person, sort of on my behalf. But I go back and forth. I feel like there's been times throughout my life where I've been really good about not getting really into it. And then there are other times where it's, your curiosity gets the better of you. I think I finally, years ago, probably a while ago, maybe 7-8 years ago, I put to bed the personal diving. I really feel 100% confident that I'm done with any kind of, there's no personal snooping. And it never was crazy, but I just remember once being with an ex and being alone in a house once and finding old photo albums or, sort of seeing that stuff. I never checked anybody's email or any of that, but I just think all of it's such a slippery slope. If you look over and check a text once, then you can be down the rabbit hole.
Yes.
So I really have a hard no on any of that stuff.
I remember I was at a birthday party, and my friend sort of cajoled me into licking this. I hope my mom is not in the kitchen.
What a great sentence, wherever this is going.
But she sort of cajoled me into licking this lollipop that was shaped as a penis.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing around with it, and she was taking pictures of me. And that is so not
me. I am.
Well, if I had a nickel for every time you had a penis-shaped something you were licking it. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's not at all.
But she sent me the photos the next day, and I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, who's that? But point being, like, if that photo was a representation of me, I would want to be like, no, sure, I enjoy male anatomy. I'm not great at attending to it, but I do think that like you take a singular image of somebody, and it's easy to judge maybe who they are or whatever, especially if like we post stuff on social media, and it's not quite fair. It hasn't. We haven't quite perfected that area yet.
Yeah. Because it's too. I mean, it's part of the reason I'm not on Instagram. I think somebody has a fake account of mine that is pretty convincing that a lot of people have said that they follow, and I'm not.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I do have some private account that I haven't been on in years, but there's some public account that is not me. But part of the reason that I'm not on it is just more about my own negative tendencies of knowing that how much I could fall down the rabbit hole of just like searching people's feeds and being like, oh God, like look at how beautiful like their life is and blah, 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 or being too aware of what I could post within and of my own life, either of thinking about my life in terms of what a post could be or thinking about a sort of projected sense of who I am. And all of this is just because I'm a massive overthinker about everything. So it's better to just sort of take myself out of the game. But because I know for some people it's no big deal, but there is a way you curate how you want to be seen, and or, you know, other people, you can put on all this other stuff about him, about them. That is not.
Do you want to wrap up just the concept of, are men concerned with the amount of women that they've slept with?
I personally would never ask that question because
I know,
I'm in the Ari camp. I just don't want to know. No, I do not want to know because it'll just get my mind wandering. Like, not about the number per se, but who are these guys before me? What did they do differently?
What kind of guy threatens you most?
That's a really good question.
That's a
really good question. I would say someone, and this is just me being completely honest right now, someone that is better looking, smarter, more successful, has a lot going on for them.
There's no one that fills that category.
Fills that. You're enough.
Thank you.
It's true. Our listeners do not know how handsome Sim is.
No.
Because he's really self-deprecating, but he is incredibly handsome.
Our listeners, you're being way too kind. And our listeners know how sweet and how nice you are. And how complimentary you are.
But
thank you.
The one power I do feel like as women that we have is that we don't get the pressure of, I don't think that guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sim, but the one advantage that we have, I think, is that men tend to be a little bit more insecure about being like good lovers.
You know what? I had those concerns maybe when I was in my 20s. I don't have those concerns anymore. Okay. Not because like I feel like, oh, I'm a master now and I have all the experience. It's just that I feel like the girls that I would be dating now, it wouldn't be on top of their lists at this point.
Well, I think you're right. I'm glad that you found that wisdom, but I do think that a lot of guys are concerned about size, and it like hangs like. Hey. But I do think that. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, if I was hung down to my knees, and I was terrible at sex, then it wouldn't really make a difference, would it?
Are you asking us as women?
It wouldn't make a difference because if I wasn't great in bed, but yet I had a huge penis.
D word, yeah.
What? Yeah.
I gotta tell you, Sim, I'm not drawn to that.
I don't
Down
think
to the knees.
Scott?
That seems like you should
Too
be at the
much.
county fair.
Too much.
I'm exaggerating with down to my knees, but you know what I
50
mean.
cents to see Sim Sarno.
I mean, but I do think all of this stuff is age
Yeah.
stuff, because once you get to a certain point,
Exactly.
you know, I think as a woman, I think you probably know as a man, everybody knows it's not what you got, it's how you use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that only comes from
But I
deep true
do
sense of comfort within yourself.
Exactly.
It's true. And I do think that I think that we all have our individual physical hangups, and I do think that men have some issues with like the idea of the woman that they've fallen in love with potentially having sex with somebody who was really endowed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. Well, it's probably an easy place to put that insecurity too. Like it's an easy one thing to point to, you know, like women's insecurities, I think tend to be sort of, or something like that. Like the reverse concern is sort of like more global. It's more about like a whole person, a whole package, a whole sense of passion, a whole thing.
Sorry,
Right.
she was so cool.
Yeah.
Whereas guys are like, I'm sorry you have a big dick.
Right.